So,
Right on
as
schedule.
you guys know, this past Monday, Spencer and I released the podcast episode about the Navy Blazer with brass buttons, and that is something that I decided to
And
come
you
up
got to
with.
say all those words.
I do listen to the episode, SEO baby, or auditory SEO. But yeah, it's something that I think I've kind of wanted to talk about for a while. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I a while back I wrote an article called the non-navy blazer, which
Okay.
I don't know if you remember it, but I bought a burgundy flannel sack blazer that's really cool. Also has like brass or gold buttons on it, and I'd never written about the blue one because I for a while I didn't have one, and then I
Yeah.
thrifted one, single-breasted 60s 70s style sack jacket, and then I got the rain jacket one. And first time I've had both my possessions, started wearing it a lot more. You can listen to the whole episode with the full story there, but I'm bringing it here to the table to the rest of you guys, so you guys could give your thoughts on navy blazers, by extension prep a little bit, but if we keep it focused on the blazer with brass buttons, because as we know, colloquially, blazers could mean sport coats for certain people. Navy blazers could just mean a navy blue sport coat with horn buttons. I'm specifically talking about the navy blazer with brass buttons.
So leave
Why
that
don't
other
we
shit
just,
out of here.
why don't, for the sake of just keeping, like, just brevity, we could just say in this discussion, blazer means navy jacket with brass buttons.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't. I'm not saying everyone else has to say it the way I say
Uh-huh.
it. But yeah,
Brass blazer with
let's
navy
open it up. I
buttons. I
mean,
like to see that.
I like Nazy.
yeah. MJ, I know you're playing, but
Nazy.
do you have thoughts on this? Did you ever have to grow up wearing one?
You ever have to
MJ?
grow up?
Is MJ dead?
MJ might be standing up.
I hope not.
The belt will
At
pull
least
for
in
me,
this
I'm sure.
cam, I don't see him. But I
Oh,
can
I
tell
guess
his
not. Matt, why
voice.
don't you start us off then? Why don't you tell us about your experience with Navy Blazers?
Yeah, so I think my grandpa had it was like this. I don't know if I've ever shown you guys it. Probably haven't. It was like an 80s. Oh yeah, because I dated it. You guys helped me date it. It's like an 80s country club blazer that's like green, and in like an 80s 70s cut. With the flap patch pockets, 2-button, and they had brass buttons. So that was like my brass button blazer. Like I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do it, but it's in that cut and it kind of fit me, but not really. So I always wanted it, and then I worked at Brooks Brothers a little bit, and they had, of course, maybe so as a constant thing. I always message you guys just like, oh, do I get this? I think it was wool. No, yeah, because their stuff it was wool, but it was fused construction because it's a factory source. So I know it was always this thing. Oh, they have a 36S. They barely had a 36S at that store, so when they did, it was nice to consider in their region fit. So I was like, oh, do I get this just so I finally have like a navy blazer with brass buttons? Like actually, I never ended up pulling the trigger on it, though. I think it would have just been something actually I would have had to replace that actually had some canvas or just committed and was an unconstructed thing. Which as I dicked around on the made to order Spear McKay thing, I was like, oh, maybe having like a completely unstructured version could be interesting. But no, so I don't have either a single breasted or a double breasted version. It's something that would be very interesting to me. Spear has they sell like a hop sack, a navy blazer that it doesn't even have horn buttons. It just has regular buttons. So and that's not too expensive. So maybe if I got, and single breasted in their Neapolitan cut, if I got something like that, switched out the buttons as they talked about and wrote about in the blog and podcast, maybe that could be a thing. But I gotta say, I kind of like the double breasted option, even though I kind of I don't have a uniform, I've kind of transport, but I have I like this idea of like a similar cut, the single breasted 3-button look. But I have to say, like having just like a navy blazer that was like double breasted with the brass buttons to wear open, and I feel like I could be a lot more successful having something like that. It just further pushing away those connotations by like probably exclusively wearing it like more casually. I doubt I would ever really wear it with like ties and like a shirt. It would be few and far between, and if I did, I think as they talked about, it'd be I don't have a chambray shirt yet, but I'd get like a chambray or like a denim shirt even, and then maybe like a knit tie, just really play it down. So I love it. I'd love to have it. It's not at the moment something I have in my wardrobe, but yeah, especially, and I even looked around eBay, but they're diminishing returns as you go, so it's a little bit harder to find, especially in my size. But I'd love to have it, especially like a double-breasted, or even having like a Hopsax SB and then maybe like a flannel or doeskin DB. But love the idea of it. Just hasn't worked out quite yet, but maybe someday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think like if there was anything from the pod I didn't get to say, but when I was a kid, there's a picture of me like I'm like between 3 and 5 years old, and I'm wearing a blazer, and I'm pretty sure I remember like my parents got that for me because like I don't know at what age do you find out that a Hopsack sport coat is good. You know what I mean? Like
I think I had a little boy
20 years
blazer
old.
too.
I had one
sure.
too. There are
Yeah,
Easter
I
photos of
think-
me running around.
I think many little boys have these blazers.
It's the quintessential
that-
jacket for dressing.
that could be why, like, because I feel like like the again, as you guys know, Hopsack has a kind of a texture to it. It's like a basket, it's open weave, so it's more casual. But obviously, you go to even not H&M, like whatever, like even Nordstrom. I don't think they had those. I think you had like a like worsted like suit, and then you had like a blazer. Even until like yeah, I mean, I could kind of see why if someone wore a navy Hopsack or a navy tweed or a navy flannel jacket that didn't have brass buttons, you would think it's a blazer because for a while people just, at least from my recollection, people didn't see like navy odd jackets very often, you know. And of course there's a whole menswear thing of like, oh, buy a navy suit and then you can wear it as separates, right? So that probably adds to that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to know. Yeah, I'm sure we all, or most of us, had like some form of like the kid blazer. I know I had it. I wore it with like like George Michael wore it with khakis. I didn't have
I
boat
doubt mine
shoes. I had
was
hush puppies.
Hopsack.
Hush
Mine was probably
puppies.
like Polly.
I mean, mine was probably that too. And I had like man, I wish I still had them because I wonder. Well, probably wouldn't fit me
Probably
now, but
Polly
like,
coming this fall.
like 90s like horizontal pattern ties, like kind of like they're not like the Gucci ones, but like that kind of like weird, like, yeah, you see it like Friends or whatever,
I think Red Fleece had ties like that recently.
Oh, well, unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know I had those, and yeah, I think that might be one reason why I was a little bit hesitant, and then so this is something. So this is I didn't get to talk about this in the podcast. I just came up with it right now. So when I this was like maybe 2-3 years ago. There's a guy who happened to go to a school in near Irvine, but it wasn't UCI. It was one of those kind of things. And apparently he's from New York. I think Sean Crowley knows him, or something like that. He was like a kid. He's like young. He's probably Spencer's age or something like that. And he was he's like a preppy guy, like not super preppy, but like he wore like an OCBD with a double-breasted blazer, khakis, penny loafers, and then like a rep stripe tie or something, something like that.
The classic
And
look.
classic look. He even had some really cool like 60s framed sunglasses from the 60s. And yeah, and basically, so he was like, oh yeah, I've only been here for like a couple months because he moved here for college, and he went to this Goodwill. And he's like, you got to go here. So we went together, and that's where I found my blazer, the like was it like poly blend ish, like a 50/50 summer weight blazer. And yeah, it was just really interesting that I got that hanging out with someone who is preppy, because I think in California you don't really see people like that very often. I mean, maybe Spencer because he's in Orange County, but not me necessarily.
Not many prepsters around.
Yeah, not really in I mean, I guess Pasadena would technically make sense because there used to be a an Anderson Andover shop, I think, around here somewhere, or something like that. But then yeah, never really existed anymore. But yeah, even then, it was still hesitant for me to wear it because I'm like, oh, it's so preppy, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't like at that stage. Like, I didn't even go through. I did have like a prep stage where like I quote stage. I just kind of did it with a couple looks. Like I had Nantucket Reds. I think were from like J Crew that I like bought on eBay for like $10 or something. And I wore that with like a black watch jacket because I thought that was cool, you know.
Well, I'm sure at
right
that
about
point
it.
the thought of dressing down didn't even enter into it. You just have a blazer and you're just like, okay, this is my dressed up look, like to like
Well, I
subvert
mean,
it
I
or dress
I
it
had
down.
it, but like, I just straight up didn't wear it, like, because again, I think that's something Spencer and I that's kind of unique uh to how we buy clothing is that sometimes like you thrift something, it's like $10, like okay, I might as well buy it because I don't know if I'll be into it later, you
It's
know.
the
Mhm.
thrift culture, yeah.
Yeah, it's thrift culture. So like with this thing, you know, I that's one reason I have a lot of clothes because like I can't get rid of it because it's like it cost me so little to get some of this stuff and a real little, you know, of course, relatively speaking, as time went on or whatever. So you know, but with that navy blazer, the 3-roll too, the sack jacket, it's like it was like $9.99. You know, I don't feel like why would I
Uh-huh.
sell it? Like no, I would get my money back. You know, but I might as well keep it, and then it worked out because I like wearing it. You
Do you
know.
buy or keep things that don't fit you and you know you're not gonna wear, but you save as like a copy for something if you ever want to reproduce it
Mm,
someday?
no, not. I've done it once.
Okay.
And that's because it was a 30s belt back that was like $20. So I bought it on eBay.
That's
And
right.
I still have it. It is literally destroyed. It is like
Oh my
mothballed,
god.
crazy. It's like ratty and everything. But I bought it because
Gross.
you know you never know, right?
I like
But
handing that to a tailor. Here, work with this. Make it.
yeah. But in terms of like thrifting, like something I'm actually able to put on,
Yeah.
never. I will not
Okay.
buy something like that. Like, you know, might as well I'd rather ask and buy it for a friend. That way they could like I could ask them to, like, oh hey, let my pattern maker. I don't have
Yeah.
one, but like if I had one, can let my guy borrow this so I could make a reproduction or something like
I
that.
mean, I
Or
bought
let me
this. I
photograph
want
it.
to put this on.
I put this on.
And that brings us to
We
our
can't
first
man,
ad
we
break
cannot
of the
mention Andy
stream.
Bernard at least once in the stream. Yeah, I mean classic preppy stuff. MJ, are you back? I
EP.
can't. Are you back?
He is back.
I'm here.
He
Yeah,
been
have
back.
you do you have an
I'm
experience
here.
with a navy blazer?
I mean,
Did you have like
I was
one?
gonna say I was probably in uh the child's dress up camp.
Right.
Yeah, the
to
little boy blazer. That's
um
the
The camp everyone
phenomenon
goes to.
that I'm calling it right now.
yeah no breast buttons yet though. Um,
Do you
but
want one?
eventually
Would you like to?
probably
The surgery's
Yeah,
cheap.
would you like to?
if the price is right
All
and
right.
Maybe
Well, we
so.
gotta get a
and
good
Oh,
and
price.
Mr.
the
Carvey.
and the wallet is right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's the next one.
Maybe it's with piping. Yeah. Well, hey, we'll talk about we'll talk about other like non like the like other blazers like rowing blazers maybe because we've started this topic a little bit early this time, so we might have some time later on.
10 minutes
But
for
now
that.
let's go through the rest now. So Heinrich, why don't you tell us about because you know you like you said you got two of them. You got both single breasted and double breasted. Take it away.
That's right. I mean, yeah, I got the single-breasted and a double-breasted one. I mean, the single-breasted one was a thrifted one that I got for like $6 or something. Uh, but it was in a beautiful hop sack. That's actually what I really wanted. I was thrifting, looking for like a classic hop sack summer lighter navy blazer. I didn't really want the brass buttons. It came
Mm.
that was probably 2 years ago. But I sort of swallowed what I then thought to be a deficit that I would have to overcome the brass buttons, and then so I could wear this thing. Um, then it had this kind of structured shoulders. I actually ended up paying a small fortune to have them altered.
Mm.
The
Oh
one
man.
thing they tell you not to do is like center shoulders, but it was found someone who could do it. It was done as cheaply as it could be done. And it is now probably one of my best fitting jackets. So now I sort of have a jacket that I don't really wear a lot, but it's objectively my best fitting one. Now we have an
Wow.
interesting situation, right?
I mean,
that's sort of what bred to the acceptance, so to speak.
right. It is an intimidating jacket. I mean, any sort of structured tailor jacket for people who might not wear it can be intimidating, but especially you add something like a detail like the brass buttons on top of it. Even in people that are like maybe at a hashtag menswear stage, which is fine, we get it. But like even just looking at something like that and trying to figure out how to work up to it, it can be hard to kind of break into that. So I totally understand when you mentioned that, just like the apprehension of launching into something like that.
Yeah, but I'm always up for this, specifically this type of challenge is something that can sort of can be bred. It sort of has to mature in the closet for a while. You have to think it through, run through the
Sure.
permutation, and so on, and then finally you arrive at the point. But for as a non-American, right, the blazer has like a couple of associations that are not just preppy. Specifically, since I lived in the UK for a while, it's like the schoolboy blazer is the one. It would actually be interesting to have someone from the UK, because I don't think people really wear them except as schoolboy uniforms over there,
Right.
because it's just the connotation is so strong that
Right.
you can't really go very much beyond that. And the other one is of course the country club attire, sort of the American Empire in its ascendancy look that sort of goes along with the style. And of course for the sports fans, the Augusta blazer, which I know is that something you're all familiar with? The greatest trophy in golf is a blazer.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've seen
Good
this
to know that.
For your enthusiasm.
Yeah, the trophy presentation at Augusta when you win is the fitting of a blazer. It's kind of unique in sport. It's worth looking up, like when Tiger Woods gets the fitting of the blazer.
There's an episode of Curb where Larry David has an identical green blazer.
Yeah.
To one of his golf heroes.
And he wears it.
The funny thing is, he's like the blazer that it's supposed to be identical to is supposed to be like, oh, this is the blazer from like 1960 or something, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it does not look like that.
Yeah.
LOL. They just pulled one.
Yeah.
The blazer is made by Brooks Brothers, I think. The Augusta blazer. So that's sort of the other connotation, sort of when you wear something has become at least quite typically American, if it's not a schoolboy one.
Yeah.
So there was that as well as the buttons. But then I got a double-breasted one this summer after I saw it popping up everywhere. I sort of kept an eye out for it and got a vintage sort of light
quite a bit.
Yeah. So I thought I'll go for it, and also because it's one of the jackets that's easy to find with like an aggressive peak lapel, which I also was looking for. So the double-breasted peak lapel jackets, and there were quite a few of those around, so I could get into that fairly easily. That's a great advantage of the Navy blazer. You can find one easily thrifted in high quality, very cheap. Very low cost entry to this topic, no?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, Spencer and I were discussing on the pod, like the single-breasted ones, they're kind of common if you're just looking at just blazers in general, but the good ones are kind of rare. But I think double-breasted ones are more easy to find good than single-breasted ones, just based on like buttoning stance, lapels, and everything. But yeah, no, I think it's great. You know, it like you said, like we've been seeing it pop up quite a bit. I try to remember the first person I saw wear it. Like recently, I think it was Ethan Newton. Ethan Newton got like a Dalcarore, obviously bespoke jacket made out of like cashmere or flannel, something like that. He wore it a lot. He wore it with like sawtooth. He wore it with like a bow tie. He's worn it with club collar and a rep tie. He's worn it with his Westerner and everything. His what's it called, the open road style. And yeah, then I saw Chase wear his.
My cat's freaking out.
Am I okay?
No, my cat's freaking out.
Oh, cat. Oh, this is Mike. Mike is freaking out.
No, my cat.
My cat.
I'll be right back.
My cat. Yeah. So yeah, I think I saw Chase in one of the outfits that I first saw him in when he moved to J Muser after Drake's, was that he had a hopsack blazer made for him. And speaking of Drake's, Actually, now I think about it, their first double-breasted jacket like that they did ready to wear was like a blazer. I think it
That
had
was
like
with the horn buttons, right? I don't. Was it? It wasn't a white. It was some lighter horn button. But they eventually did a brass button. I know, but I think they like went into it with some other horn button.
let me look it up. I don't.
When was this?
This was
Oh, I
like
don't
2
know.
years ago. I think
Yeah.
this was yeah. This is
Maybe
this is.
spring 2018. No, 2019 rather. Maybe spring 2019.
I don't think so. I think it was twice as no. Okay, yeah, March. Oh, hey, there it is. March 20th, 2019. Okay, so it's the double-breasted jacket. So it's not a blazer itself. It has like yeah, shiny like kind of silver horn buttons, and it was made of
Silver.
silk.
Okay.
It's made of silk. It
Yeah,
was like
it
a
was like
silk
a lighter
jacket.
texture. Okay.
That was a weird choice for them.
Hmm.
Okay, I guess in my head, but yeah, like we said, but they did make a like a brass button variation at some point. And
Yeah. Did they have just like a fall version with brass buttons?
I don't remember, it's kind of hard because sometimes they delete old posts and everything, so it's really hard for me
Yeah.
to
And
archive
it's harder
everything.
to navigate all their editorials and lookbooks now. It's just kind of
Yeah, the
messy.
website's not really great for that. Even the armories, like, it's really hard to find editorial stuff because these again,
Yeah.
this is off topic, but like they are e-commerce sites and not like they're not permanent style, and
Right.
that's
It's
not
very
built for
second thought.
blogs or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's double-breasted one. There's also something special about the double-breasted that is really cool. Yeah, before we dive in more about single versus double, I mean, Kiyoshi, what are your thoughts on it? I know that you have a lot of different clients. I know that kind of informs some of your choices and everything. But go ahead.
So like going back a little bit, like when I first started getting into menswear, and the navy single breasted 3 roll 2, that was one of my first good thrift pickups I remember getting was with the brass buttons, flap patch pockets. Um, it was darted, and it was double vented, but it was a great pickup, and I wore the living daylights out of that thing. This is when I was working for the Illinois Senate, so it got a lot of use. Definitely leaned into that young Republican kind of look, for better or worse. And I wore the living daylights out of that thing. I really liked it at the time. When I left that job and then started working in outside of that realm, I kind of stopped wearing the blazer a lot, and it kind of just fell by the wayside. Eventually, I got rid of it, and I've never revisited the brass button blazer since. I think looking back, like I guess I kind of view that garment or that style of garment as something of like an era of my life, and it was a very different me, and it makes it harder for me to go back and reincorporate that exact thing back into my current wardrobe. So yeah, um, but yeah, so that's kind of what I've been. Whenever I think of the navy brass button blazer, that is kind of where my mind goes, and I
That
don't know if
particular
I
moment of
want
your life.
to. Yeah, like I'm not sure. Like I want to reintegrate it because I kind of feel like it does have that heavy like young Republican like preppy kind of East Coast look to it that it's really hard to disassociate, especially for me, the garment from the type of person it represents, and it's I like when I see people wearing it. I think it looks cool. I think it's a very easy garment to pull off in a lot of different ways. But for me, it's not something that I'm thinking, okay, in the next 5 years, I want to add this to the wardrobe. I have a navy blazer now. It's got, gray shell, mother pearl buttons, in a hop sack. But for the time being, I don't think it will be something that I'll bring back for a while. So that's kind of my
Interesting.
yeah. It's kind. I loved it at the time, and I loved it when I had it. But for now, it's like for me to go back and wear that, I think it would be a bit. It would be like me going back to an earlier version of my style that,
You don't like
and
anymore.
and frankly, like my personal politics that like I just kind of want to leave behind,
Right.
and move past.
Makes
So, it's kind of weird how it has these like connotations for me that, I don't think that really applies to a lot of other people, but it definitely makes me feel a certain
Yeah.
way when I would wear that garment again if I were to. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's very interesting because, like, obviously, as we discussed at length in the pod, and people, in the comments and everything, the blazer is definitely, like Jeremy says here, it's got huge private school energy. It's got this elitist mentality. It's very WASP, and it could just be that Spencer and I are born just, and some of us are born a little bit later, so we don't really have like, we didn't have the little boy blazer, but like now, like, as we got older, like you don't see that anymore. You don't really see that little boy blazer anymore in general,
No.
right? And so, and we were kind of on the tail end of that kind of thing. We've seen a little bit of like, making fun of like, like animated shows of like nerds wearing blazers or like characters on sitcoms and Disney channels and the Zack and Cody and stuff like that.
Period things.
But at a certain point, it kind of removes from that. It almost becomes like a historical kind of thing, right? Where we say like, oh yeah, preps wear, but like, first off, like we don't even see preps in California. We don't really see like true preps. Like we might see a guy wearing like a polo shirt, shorts, and boat shoes. That's like kind of like the new prep. As me and MJ have
Some
talked
vineyard
about.
vines. Yeah.
Yeah, we see more vineyard vine stuff. We're seeing more finance bro stuff, and we're seeing a lot more, like hashtag menswear, Blake Scott types, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, side note, the photographer I hung out with today, no surprise, he knows the guys who work with Blake Scott because he asked me, "Oh yeah, you guys friends?" I'm like, "No," like no.
Who?
He
Never
goes,
heard of him.
Yeah, he actually asked me like, "So wait, do you consider yourself an influencer?" And I'm like, "Nope, not even close." But that's a topic for another thing. But anyway, we didn't really have that, and even then, with the whole like prep revival, like we talk about Andy Bernard, we talk about Fred Castleberry. Again, we didn't. I mean, I don't know if I can speak exactly for Spencer and MJ, but like we didn't really see guys who did it. They kind of skipped, right from like nothing when we were kids to like Mad Men, and then right into like Pity Peacock, hashtag Men's. We didn't really have like the kind of super prep, guy wearing tweed with jeans rolled all the way up with like, fun socks and penalties. Like we just totally skipped that whole thing. My only exposure to that was seeing it on Tumblr. Was seeing it like again like old pictures of Fred Castleberry, pictures of Nick Wooster, people at J Crew, but like never in person. So to me, wearing the blazer was always like, okay, well, it's like a nod to that world, even though no one's ever really seen that world here, at least, or none of my friends have like really seen that. I haven't met a college Republican kid who looked like that. I've met a lot of edgy kids. Usually for me, me and MJ, we meet a lot of like edgy, nerdy types who wear like anime t-shirts and jeans and Vans who are like, yeah, you know what? Guys should be able to have a guaranteed wife, but never like the regular prep kind of thing,
Yeah, I think that's. It sounded pretty robot.
Your hotspot's failing you, Matt. You sound like a robot. A very slow robot.
Someone typed in the chat for him.
I think he's dead. I think he didn't say anything.
Oh no. So like, it's interesting to bring up like meeting other people like that wear that, and it's like I don't think I would have seen that had it not been for the job I had when I worked for the Senate. So like, it was like no one in Chicago wears that. Like the places I go now, I never see anyone in a navy blazer and freaking colorful chinos and a bow tie. Like that's just not a thing.
Yeah.
But you go to a Young Republican event at a bar in Wrigleyville, and there's like a dozen of navy blazers in there, right, with boat shoes.
Right.
And or you go to like events held by like lobbyists. It's like tons of like grown-ups are wearing that. So like it's within a certain circle, definitely where I am. And at the time I would have that job, it was like very much a part of that scene.
Uh-huh.
But had I not worked that job, I probably would have a very
Different.
similar
Yeah.
feeling about the Navy Blazer that you do, because I just wouldn't have been around people that like do that without the irony.
Right.
Like people that are wearing that because like they went to, in Georgetown and were in a frat and
Right.
they all have the same like, rep tie or some bullshit. Like it's very weird to have been exposed to that coming from like my own background and like kind of getting into it from more of a fashion #menswear Tumblr era kind of point of view rather than a quote unquote authentic, this is part of my white conservative culture lifestyle viewpoint, where it's just like, part of the uniform. Like I wasn't a frat in college, like that was not me at all. So like it was very weird coming to that like very late in the game, but from a very different point of view. Like, oh yeah, this is super fun. I get to wear a navy blazer and like
Yeah.
wear red chinos.
Super fun.
But like it was kind of like I'm wearing it as like a point of like, oh, this is kind of like interesting and novel, versus other people wearing it like I wore this shit with like my frat brothers. Like
Right.
it's very weird to have those like two places approach the same item of clothing. And
Right.
I wouldn't say like, I don't associate other people when I see that. Like I don't think like I identify them as like in that realm, but I have met enough people in that realm where I'm like, I don't want to like put up the signal flare that like I'm one of you guys, because that's like definitely not what the kind of vibe I want to give off like when I wear tailoring these days. So
Right.
yeah,
You're doing it, or you're not trying to be in a club.
yeah, exactly.
Sure. You're so close to becoming a robot right there.
Really? I imagine.
Yeah, almost. I think it's just because like as you like activate, like like it starts picking up your thing. I think it takes a while for your internet
I'm
to kind of catch up.
activating.
Yeah.
I'm back, by the
Heinrich,
way.
before I mean I have some stuff. I'm sure the rest of us do, but Heinrich, what about you? Like any connotations, any past stuff to the Navy Blazer, brass buttons and such?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Kyo just said, since I had let's rub some shoulders with circles like that, and it's I do wonder what it's like exactly now, because I do remember maybe like 10 years ago or something, for unrelated reasons, that I was living in Chicago as well, spent some time among some donor circles up in like Wilmette and Evanston,
Ooh,
yeah. Like the super, or Highland Park, like the super wealthy part of Chicago, with some university donors, and it was a sight to behold. Like actually, that really existed. Like where these like lavish garden parties where all the guys, like they're ancient, like 70s, 80s, like in their 90s.
Yeah.
Another place to spot is like the Chicago Symphony Kiosk. If you go there, you'll see the Navy Blazers if they ever come back.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah.
like, the ultra, among like the ultra wealthy, at least if they're old.
and they've had it for decades. Yeah.
Had it for
Right,
decades.
that's their look.
They're like free and ill-fitted. It's like the exact cliche that you've heard, like all that, and that was that was like when Obama was running for elections a long time ago, and everyone was a Republican, but like of the old school, were making fun of the one Democrat in the room that also wore the Navy blazer. It was an interesting fact, and that sort of is still somewhat intact, even if you've never come across it in person. I don't see that actually as a problem necessarily. I never, not even in the context of irony. If you look at perhaps the guy who's worn the blazer the longest, something like the Ralph Lauren with the blazer with the jeans. He's been doing that since how long? And that's never been about irony, right? Ralph Lauren doesn't have any. One thing about Ralph Lauren is he has zero irony.
Right.
Not an ironic bone in his body.
Yeah, it might be the
X-rays confirm this.
I know, it's like it might be the one person in America who has zero irony poisoning at all.
From the top to the bottom.
It's kind of unique, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. It's also kind of weird. It's like it's not supposed to happen. This sort of unproblematic embrace of just everything American. It's just who can do that? Well, but that's kind of the goal. Huh? It's not about subverting even. It's like there's like a complete embrace that's just disregards the context completely. It's a kind of freedom that I admire.
Right.
So irony isn't freedom in that sense. It's not you're not dressing freely if
Because
you
you still have to
rely
wear
on
it.
You still have
That's
to
the
wear
thing.
it.
It's like you can say
Go
ironically,
on
but
you.
like you have to wear this thing that like has these that you might think connotations, but it's like okay, if you don't embrace it, then you're gonna come off awkward, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. You're not free if you rely on that to make it work. So that's what
Mhm.
sort of Ralph can teach you. Sort of.
This looks
Right.
like it'll be a good conversation with all just to talk about some hypotheticals. and
Boy,
stuff
oh
that's
boy.
going on.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I
we
mean,
almost made the whole stream.
the kind of interesting that you mentioned that, like how Ralph wears it, like, you know, just as a genuine embrace of Americana and the kind of garment, but at the same time you got like someone like Andy Warhol, who also wore basically the same thing, where it was like navy blazer, necktie, OCBD, Levi's 501s, and he was doing it from a point of irony where it was like, I am wearing like this waspy uniform, but instead of khakis, I'm wearing jeans and, you know, some pro wear with it alongside of it. And it was more of a fashion statement by him to be like going against the grain. And you know, here's this kind of like weird, quirky, eccentric artist that's wearing Brooks Brothers at the same time and Berluti shoes and like what?
This
Yeah.
guy is crazy.
Yeah, it's like
Question
it's
mark?
very
Crazy,
funny,
man.
but it's kind of weird how like you can take the same exact clothes and put them on. I mean, this is honestly the beauty of like clothing and fashion, right? That it's like you can put the same clothes on different people, and just like their character and their nature can give those same clothes can send different messages outward, right? Because like Andy Warhol was very considered. He knew exactly what he was doing when he did that and made that like a uniform for himself. And that in itself, like dressing became almost an artistic statement, you know, also given the fact that he constantly photographed himself or was photographed a lot. So I always thought that was kind of interesting too, because like that's kind of where I took like my cues from when I had the navy blazer. It was like I was like had read about Andy Warhol. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Like I can do that look too. You know, obviously I would probably, you know, dress it up a little bit if I was working, but when I wasn't working and decided I was going to work tailoring all the time, even outside of work, it was very much like a pair of literal Levi 501s and a navy blazer with brass buttons, and you know, a tie and a button-down shirt. And that's kind of where I took my cues from. It really wasn't me taking cues from like reading into the Ivy League era and wanting to emulate, you know, kids that went to Yale. It was more like, oh, I thought Andy Warhol was kind of cool, and like he wore this, I could do that. It seems pretty simple. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I guess if I were ever to like go back to like a brass button blazer,
Yeah.
it would be along those lines, definitely. But I just don't know, like the current wardrobe I have now and the direction I'm taking it, like I just don't see that like working in there. But never say never, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant
Yes.
before. Like I like the like Neapolitan. Oh, am I a robot?
No, we were
Okay,
laughing.
just checking.
I was laughing at MJ.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just checking. I liked the, you know, this like the 3-roll 2 single-breasted, so that was made me wondering, does this double-breasted fit in? It sort of fucks everything up in an interesting way. You know, it's like different. Then can I rationalize that? Be okay with that? So yeah, I get that. And maybe you saying Andy Warhol also made me wonder: did David Hockney wear a blazer? And I forgot his like personal
Definitely,
clothing
I'm
style.
pretty sure he did.
He
I had to
definitely
Google him.
has.
He has like like not like brass buttons, but like in his younger days, it's funny. His pants just look just like something John would wear, just like those stovepipe
Yes.
rise.
Mhm.
But like as he got older, like he very like loose fits but intentional shapes. Like even those like button cardigans with the end parts like Drake's is like coming out of the high rise pants, but like these
Yeah.
very loose shapes is very interesting. But yeah, I was curious about him with a potentially like a blazer type look.
I haven't looked as much into Hockney, but I definitely have seen photos of him. Like it's always like a knit tie of some sort, maybe
Yeah.
even a striped knit tie or dotted knit tie.
He loves stripes.
You know,
Drake's.
he loves color, like for his
Mhm.
shirts too. Like, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I love his. Whenever I see a photo of him, I'm like, first of all, I'm like shocked he's still alive, and then like, second of all, I'm like,
Yeah.
just I'm also like very happy looking at him because he seems like the really fun like grandpa. You know, like
Yeah.
the cool, fun,
Yeah.
quirky grandpa that still wears like sneakers and like, you know, he's not like
It's really
the-
nice when old people still dress that fun way, but still
Yeah.
informed.
Yeah.
they don't dress like they're like dour and like
Insane.
falling into like the wallpaper. Like he
Oh.
definitely is like color vividness, and it's also I think obviously reflected a lot of his work, which is
Right.
cool. But I just kind of like how he's always kept up that and honed his style as he's aged. You know, it's like he has a consistent. You can see the through line from like young Hockney to now.
Oh yeah.
But
totally.
it's changed. It has changed, but it's
Yeah.
still Hockney, like in terms of his like dressing. And I've always kind of liked that whenever I see a photo of him, like, oh, like you know instantly it's Hockney, even though he's like, you know, 30 years older than like a press photo from like, you know, his heyday of popularity or when he first became popular, which I always like.
No, he's an icon, truly.
Yeah.
The end. Thank you for watching.
It's like,
Tune in
awkward
next
pause.
week where
Something else happens.
Yeah, no, I think
Any more ground?
there's something interesting about when you see artists kind of co-opt like traditional looks. I mean, obviously it speaks to that stage of art in that time, the 60s, right? And
Mhm.
everything. But to go back to Heinrich, what you're saying about, you know, if you do it ironically or subverting, it's not really free. That's interesting philosophy on that, because I do agree. I think it's true that when you, even if you are going against the rules, it's like you're doing it based on that rule of going against it, right?
Right.
And
you can never escape the rules, is our point.
You can never escape the rules. We've always said it.
The
yeah,
rules are gonna get after you. If you break the rules, you will be punished by us.
Right.
Rules, they're made to be broken.
By the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah.
right. And yeah, I don't know if I could ever wear the navy blazer completely unironically, you know. And I think taking it a little bit further in the meta sense, I think that I am embracing what other people are doing. So technically I'm not subverting it myself, I'm just doing what other people have done. So technically I'm doing it, just it's not completely rebellious in a sense, because, you know, obviously my style takes after Americana, Japanese Americana, you know, Drake's, whatever, where they kind of do it irreverently, right? And I guess one reason why, I guess, you know, it could also just be, you know, I just never really had the connotations of it, so it's a little bit easier for me to kind of get into, because I've had similar, not exactly the same, but a similar thought process of, like, you know, when you get like a tweed sport coat, like a blue tweed sport coat, you know, like, oh, that's, you know, typically, you know, you would do a tweed in like a check. Why would you do it in like a traditional color, right? Or you do like a blue linen jacket or something like that. So like, you know, a navy blazer, you know, with the breast buttons is kind of like, okay, you're gonna get a navy sport coat, but it happens to be in this configuration. It's gonna have the swelled seam. It's gonna have the breast buttons, the triple patch pockets, at least in the way that I like it. And so when you're doing it, I mean, it's kind of, well, at least when I do it, it's like, it's just another jacket, just like with I don't know, what's some of the stuff, like, I guess like a fedora. I guess it's like it's just like a hat that happens to look like this, or like a chore coat. Is a you know, a blue jacket that happens to be in this configuration, so that makes it a lot easier for me to kind of get into. And then I you know, to go a little bit further, I don't think that I necessarily dress preppy very often at all anyway. So when I wear it, yeah, people will think it looks preppy, but like, doing it with, like a spear point or whatever, and like a pleated trouser, technically that's not ivy, right? Spear points aren't really ivy, at least heyday ivy. Pleats definitely are not ivy to some people, you know. So it just happens to be like I'm introducing like a preppy. It's like as if I was wearing a Vineyard Vines cap, but I'm not. Like I'm just it's like signaling that kind of connotation, even though the rest of the outfit's not really there. And that's kind of how I've been approaching the navy
You're
blazer.
not an early adopter, you're an early adapter.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's just I like wearing. I've been wearing it a lot lately, obviously because we're in this kind of like fun like 60s, 70s, 80s like prep revival period that we're
Yeah.
seeing in menswear. Um, and I'm glad I have it, but it's like well, I guess
It's
one reason why
not, yeah,
I don't wear my navy hopsack very often is because obviously if we're gonna go for more textures, like my navy hopsack from Spear and McKay is like a merino, or it's made from merino. It's woven from merino wool, so it's kind of fine. Even though it's hopsack, there's a little bit of like visual texture there. It still feels very fine. Um, and then my navy blazer, single breasted version, has like kind of a rough, almost like a fresco-y, very summer, like mohair kind of feel to it, even though it's like 50-50, it's poly or something like that, it's poly wool. It just has more of like it feels rougher. It looks like it can take a beating a little bit more. It's not as shiny as like my hopsack. It's again not as smooth. And so yeah, in general, it just based on those things, even if you don't take out the brass buttons or the swelled edges, it just feels like a more casual jacket that I could like, stuff like my glasses case into or whatever and kind of go about my day compared to like my hopsack because like I think honestly my hopsack jacket feels very formal in comparison, and I wear the hopsack jacket whenever I'm doing like a cleaner tailored look. I've obviously worn it with chinos, but if I happen to be wearing like wide leg like military chinos, I tend to go with my 3-roll-2 navy blazer sack jacket or my Uniqlo. I think Spencer has, or we have versions of this. We have
Yeah, the
the cotton
tweed.
linen, or yeah,
Yeah.
this is tweed one, but I have the summer version, which is a cotton linen, completely unstructured, completely unlined Uniqlo jacket, which is a beater. And I've actually been wearing that one a lot more as well. Actually, this whole summer I've been wearing either that one or the sack jacket. Just
I think
because
having an unstructured, that really plays down that formality. So that's an interesting combo.
yeah, and then the Spear and McCain one, it's even though it's it's very soft in structure and it's very Neapolitan, it still looks very like very armory. It doesn't feel very like it would have to be definitely like a denser hopsack, maybe like a heavier weight wool, something a bit more open weave like the balloon. Which is why, as we transition to the double-breasted version, why I'm into that more because. I mean, Spencer, seen that you guys have. I mean, you guys can see the pictures or whatever. You guys might have been able to see when it was still up on the Wingjack website. But like that one has a very rich texture to it. It's very basket weavy. It feels great, and so I've been wearing the navy, the BV version from Ring Jacket a lot, and there's just something about it that, some people don't like wearing DBs unbuttoned. I prefer wearing my DBs unbuttoned. I seldom wear it. Even though I'm not a big fan of 6-on-1, I've been wearing my jacket like rolled to the last button, which is kind of a weird move for me because as Spencer knows, I never like 6-on-1.
Yeah.
And like this is like my way of kind of doing it because obviously there are pictures of people doing it with 6-on-2, like the rolled to 1.
Send me the link.
30s, 40s, and everything like that.
You're not getting any links.
No 6-on-1
No.
links.
No
Alright.
6-on-1.
Yeah. Funny.
Maybe after.
But yeah, I've been wearing a lot more, and it just works so well with t-shirts. Like I think before that in the summertime when I was writing my sneaker article, one of my favorite outfits that I wore to Target was I wore a Breton stripe tee with a 3-roll with my navy single-breasted sack jacket with like olive chinos and like Vans and a bucket hat. very Americana, very easy, kind of basic bastard or similar basic bastard with some kind of more preppy elements to it. But then doing that now, the DB feels even easier for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's cool. It could be, as Jeremy said earlier, some people have like naval peacoats that have like brass buttons like that, right? And maybe it's a way of like exuding that vibe because a DB Navy Blazer kind of reminds me of like the naval, like the 6-on-3 peacoats, right? That it's probably was derived from, or the 8-on-4. You know,
we've talked about the hardness of wearing a navy blazer, but I feel like as long as you don't wear it with khakis or like tan chinos, it's already that just not doing that is already subverting it. I mean, even gray flannels isn't as
absolutely.
bad. You know, like the olive chino, the gray flannel, then you're set. Like denim, or just different fun pants. That's a little closer on the nose, like the go to hell pants, but those like bright, colorful chinos. But that alone does it.
Yeah, of just straight up just wearing, the fucking wearing chinos with a blazer, not good.
No.
You can, but it's more like if you're gonna do it, you better make sure it's not like the rest of the outfit is up to par. You know what I mean? Like wear it with like a chambray, wear it with like a black knit tie, like if you're wearing it with like a university stripe, and then a rep stripe or like a fucking bow tie. But it's one of those things, right? Where like I think Navy Blazer, it just happens to be something with the most connotations to it. But that could be used for anything. Where like as long like if you wear a navy suit, don't wear it like with a white shirt and like a red tie. Like you're gonna look like a fucking politician or whatever, right? But luckily none of us do that. And most people don't do that, at least who are into menswear, right?
Fucking silk tie.
Yeah, but satin tie.
That too.
But luckily, I think that we are kind of beyond that. Where if we do I've worn like navy suits with burgundy fluoro ties, but I feel like the way I wear it again is going to be different. And I've also worn the brass button jacket with chinos, but and OCBD and a striped tie. But then I wear it with like sockless tassels and like a beanie or a bucket hat. Like okay, then there's something different there.
Yeah.
Where it's I wouldn't say it's like ironic, but it's it's irreverent. And to bring it to what Jeremy's saying in the chat here, he says he likes the idea of irreverence versus irony. That's why Japanese fashion is so good. They get the information from the West, but for the most part don't care about the cultural connotations one way or another, and just make it work as pure aesthetic. And
that's very nice.
When you look at the pictures of them, like obviously wasps don't exist in Japan, right? You don't have that kind of.
Well, they do have murder hornets.
That's true. Okay.
So they have to deal with that.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like they've got it worse.
Exactly.
Right.
We just have wasps. They have murder
we just
hornets.
can't empathize.
Hello, I'm one of the killer hornets in Osaka. That's my impression of what that symbol would do.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I love that character. I hope we get more of him.
Hope we see more of Mr.
Murder Hornet.
Mr. Murder Hornet son.
It's the locust belly lockjaw is what that is, right? Or Judge Whitey from Futurama.
Yeah.
Well, let's get that clip.
Well, I mean,
by the way, it looks like you're uploading another stream, Ethan.
So just kind of on this topic of how Japan is able to wear all of this predominantly ivy waspy clothing and make it work. I mean, isn't part of the reason why they're able to make it work is because, quite frankly, they're Asian?
They don't give a damn.
Because if you're a white dude wearing it in America, you instantly get visually put in with those type of people, right? It's you could be the most punk rock kid, but you throw them in a navy blazer and a rep tie and a pair of chinos, and it's well, you look like all the rest of them.
There's enough of it in pop culture to get that.
Yeah, but if you're in Japan and you're Asian, who isn't, guess what? Not typically part of prep school Americana, and that whole you're by definition, if you're Asian, you are not a WASP. So you're ASP, I guess, at most. And if you
you're
check
a snake.
the boxes. So
Snake.
you know, I feel like that's why if you're Asian, you can kind of get away with in Japan, like you can get away with wearing a lot of this because like, well, no one's gonna mistake you for that. Like it almost becomes kind of like, oh, the Japanese are just like quirky, you know, dressers and they have their own like thing. Like you just kind of like get dismissed, not necessarily that way, but just as like, oh, you're like the quirky Asian fashion guy, versus like the, you know, East Coast prep person, you know, that's and all the stuff that comes with it. Which, fair or unfair, I kind of feel like it's almost easier to wear these clothes and not get associated with those type of connotations if you're not white.
Oh, 100%. I think
Yeah.
I think half the things that I wear I've gotten away with because I'm not white. I honestly I do believe that. This is definitely another. I guess I'll highlight this as a separate topic.